Patricia Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I want to begin by echoing the words of the Honourable Member for Banbury, who is no longer in her place, that this is indeed one of the most difficult, if not the most difficult debate in the entire parliamentary calendar. But it must be debated because it's too important for us not to. And I would also begin by saying that a number of my colleagues would very dearly have liked to have participated in this debate today, but sadly our conference is not accommodated in the recesses of the Parliament, so therefore they were unable to be here. Madam Deputy Speaker, as the Honourable Member for Colchester has pointed out, this is the third year that we have made a special effort in this House to mark Baby Loss Awareness Week, which culminates in International Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day 2018 on the 15th of October. And in a cruel twist of fate, sadly, that's the same day that my own baby was stillborn at full term in 2009. And Kenneth would have celebrated his 9th birthday on that day. And it is in his honour, Madam Deputy Speaker, that I began to talk and I began to campaign and will continue to talk and will continue to campaign about this issue, to shine a light on it, to break the taboo around it, to break the silence that we all know exists and which we are all working to change. And I also want to, in my opening remarks, thank the fellow members of the All Party Group, the Honourable Member for Colchester, the Honourable Member for Edinburgh and the Honourable Member for Banbury. And as a member of that group, I like to think that I am able to provide, as a Scottish MP, a Scottish perspective. Of course, in Scotland, health has devolved, but I believe on this issue, as I believe in all issues, that where we can work together and learn from each other, then we most certainly should do that, because this issue is certainly above politics. I also want to thank all those across the House who have championed this issue of baby loss and shared their personal and painful experiences and circumstances, and also the charities who work on the front line every single day, helping bereaved parents through this life-changing and traumatic event, as the member for Edinburgh has reminded us and others in this debate have pointed out. It's important that all the parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles and brothers and sisters who have been affected by such an appalling tragedy as baby loss to know that even though they feel isolated in their grief, they are not alone. And sadly, the tragedy of baby loss and stillbirth is terrifyingly common, with around 6,500 babies dying before or shortly after birth, one baby every hour and a half. And that means, Madam Deputy Speaker, that in the course of this debate, while we've been talking, 2 babies have died. Some 4,000 of these babies, of the 6,500, will be stillborn, with another 2,500 surviving for less than a month after birth. We're all working to the same end in this House, across the UK, to reduce these terrible statistics, because behind each one is a family devastated by grief, living under the shadow of the pain of this for the rest of their lives, whilst appearing to function normally on the surface. Because the grief of losing a baby and all the hope invested therein does not go away. Families, parents, simply find a way somehow to learn to live with it. However, I am pleased to say that progress is being made, and I'm aware of the backslapping comment that was well made by the Honourable Member for Colchester, but I do think we have to acknowledge where we make progress. We have to acknowledge that. Scotland is now close, we're not there yet, but we're now close to the high standards set by Nordic nations in minimising stillbirths and early infant deaths. I was very pleased to read that according to a Leicester University study, rates are falling across the entire UK, but according to the study by Leicester University, Scotland is leading the way, although of course there can be no room for complacency. The rate of stillbirths and deaths of babies within 28 days in Scotland in 2017 was 4.72 per 1,000 live births, which compares with the Nordic rate of 4.3. And probably everybody in this room who has an interest in these matters, and I think we all do, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Finland and Iceland are generally regarded as having the gold standard in terms of neonatal survival. In the 2015 rate for the entire UK for stillbirths and deaths of babies within 28 days of birth was 5.61 per 1,000 live births, a drop from 6.04 in 2013. So yes, improvement has been made, but this is not job done, far from it. Nevertheless, it is extremely welcome progress. Prevention is and absolutely must remain the key. Mary Ross Davey, the Royal College of Midwives Scotland Director, has said that Scotland has in recent years undertaken very important work in this area, which has improved outcomes for Scotland, with the National Stillbirth Group established in 2013. In addition, we've had the Maternity Care Quality Improvement Collaborative since that time as well. And moreover, earlier this year, as we've heard about from other members, in terms of England, the Scottish Government has funded the National Bereavement Care Pathway, which will benefit bereaved parents across Scotland. And this has obviously been rolled out parallel, I think, with the care pathway in England. This pathway is important because it seeks to improve the quality of bereavement care experienced by parents and families at all stages of pregnancy and baby loss, so that all bereaved parents across the UK can expect the same high-quality, sensitive bereavement care that they need and they deserve. It's still in the process of being established, and it will involve collaboration and partnership with baby loss charities and stakeholders, and so it should. The Stillbirth and Neonatal Death charity SANS is working and will continue to work with the Scottish Government and other baby loss charities and other healthcare partners in Scotland to develop the approach over the next 2 years, with the plan to pilot, implement and embed this pathway across Scotland by March 2020. Because when the worst happens and parents must face this nightmare, it is important that the correct support mechanisms are in place. This is the least that can be done. And sadly, this was not always the case in the past, where bereavement care experienced by parents and families during pregnancy or shortly after birth could be patchy and variable, as the Honourable Lady for Banbury has pointed out, and to which I can personally testify. Support and the right kind of care in the immediate aftermath of such a life-changing event can make all the difference to those affected, as we heard from the member for Edisbury. Now, I have lobbied the Scottish Government, which is now also investigating, and this has been raised earlier in the debate, the provision of fatal accident inquiries for stillbirths in some circumstances. This is another mark of how far we've come, and it's a huge step, and nobody should underestimate the complexity of this step forward, of even the fact that it's under discussion and investigation. And I know it's also been explored by the Department of Health in England. Currently, until a baby lives independently of its mother, any change in the law here would be profound and require the law around it to be very, very carefully looked at. And of course, no one would expect a fatal accident inquiry, or in England a coroner's inquiry. No one would expect it to be routinely carried out following a stillbirth, but it may be appropriate in very specific circumstances, but not as a way of seeking to punish anyone who may have made mistakes, but as a learning tool to greater inform medical practitioners as they carry out and seek to improve antenatal care. And I should point out that the only reason this idea has even been raised in the first place is because we know that many hospitals have been extremely reluctant in the past to investigate stillbirths fully and in a transparent way. Parents often report feeling excluded from the process, denied proper answers to the question, why did our baby die? Now, we know that sometimes it's not possible to answer that question. Sometimes we just don't know. But where explanations or information can be given, so it should be. And any relevant information needs to be shared with bereaved parents. So the fact that it hasn't been in the past is not good enough, and it is to be hoped that the bereavement care pathway and a more transparent ethos around baby loss will help address these issues. And of course, as we've heard earlier in this debate, Madam Deputy Chair, we couldn't measure progress and the support parents and families can access without mentioning the Parental Bereavement Bill. This legislation means that for the first time ever, bereaved parents who lose a child up to the age of 18 years old are entitled to statutory paid leave under the law, and parents who go through a stillbirth are also protected by it. An old age wrong has been corrected in this legislation, and the law has rightly recognised the enormity of losing a child and the protection in the workplace parents should be entitled to expect as a right, not as a gift conferred by their employer. This bill also includes protection for those who suffer a stillbirth. I've already said that, I apologise. I wish to thank all of the people in this House with whom I had the privilege to work alongside on this bill, with particular thanks, of course, to the Honourable Member for Thurston-Malton, whose approach to this bill was sensitive and reflective, and for that I think we all thank him. This bill, Madam Deputy Speaker, is not perfect, but it is groundbreaking, and it will, I am sure, evolve over time. Another issue which will help with baby loss are moves in England to permit the registration of babies lost before 24 weeks gestation. Now, the Scottish Government is also actively looking at this, with input from professionals in the field. And baby loss charities as well, examining the current system, its effects, and how a potential voluntary registration process or other kind of process could work in practice. Certainly, parents who lose their baby before the 24-week threshold, before it's classified as a stillbirth, but instead classified as a miscarriage, they often feel that their loss is dismissed, officially at least, since there is no documentation to testify to the fact that their baby even existed, was eagerly awaited, and their loss, despite this, has a lasting impact on the entire family. In such cases, the opportunity to register their baby's death may provide many parents with some comfort at an extraordinarily difficult time, and for that, if nothing else, should be seriously examined. And of course, we're all mindful of the cases we've heard about where twins are lost, one before the 24-week threshold and the other one after it, but only one baby is eligible for registration. Imagine being the parents going through that. So it's not hard to see how much worse that makes parents and families feel when they're confronted by this situation. And that is something we're looking at both in England and in Scotland, and it's something that we should look at, and it's time we looked at it. All that can be done to ease the trauma of losing a child must be done. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, the speech I delivered today on this issue is thankfully more optimistic than that of previous speeches I have delivered on this particular issue. Progress has been made, and I'm delighted about that. Slowly, very slowly, but we're getting there. We're beginning to break the taboo on this issue, which in itself allows or demands that we move forward. We've come some way, but there is still much to do, and the Honourable Lady for Edinburgh pointed out some sobering examples of this in parts of England and Wales. The fact is that, according to Embrace, 15 babies are stillborn or die within the first 28 days of life, and 80% of those investigated could have been avoided with better care. We can and we must do better, and progress in recent years shows that we are capable of doing so. For my part as a Scottish MP, I will continue to communicate with the Scottish Government and maintain a dialogue on this matter, and to work with the All Party Group on baby loss. And we have to remember in this debate as well that we've talked about the emotional trauma of baby loss, but remember as well there is a social cost to this. Parents who lose a child in whatever circumstances are 8 times more likely than their counterparts to divorce. They are more likely to drop out of the workforce, perhaps never to return. So there's all sorts of social costs associated with this as well, and we have to do everything we can to support parents in this position. And I have to say that the former Cabinet Secretary for Health, Shona Robeson MSP, was most receptive about concerns I raised with her on this matter, and her successor, Jean Freeman MSP, has continued very much in the same vein. So I very much look forward to the next year where we continue to work to challenge the silence and the taboo and the difficulties that baby loss and neonatal death brings. Cross-party work has never been so constructive, I suspect, and on an issue which we all care about, one that impacts all too often on too many families in every single constituency across the United Kingdom. So we have a duty to work together, we have a duty to make things better, and we have a duty to break the silence.
Yeah.